Look.
We're here.
Like that.
Like that, people.
Well, welcome everybody. We've been gone for a couple weeks. I hope you caught our concert, which we did re-air on July 3rd. It's on YouTube. This week we figured it would be fun to have just the four of us and discuss the entertainment side of the events industry. We've been hearing a lot of conversation about the industry at large. I don't know, Jarreau and Aijne, if you've been hearing much of the conversation, but a lot of planners, a lot of designers and photographers and florists. And I felt like, we felt like there hadn't been a lot of conversation about the entertainment world. So.
Yeah, no.
With Lucy Black Entertainment. That's Lauren.
I guess Lauren doesn't want to introduce herself tonight.
Sorry, no, I'm not finding our stream. I'm not sure if we're actually
so live. Fabulous that you feel like you need no introduction. Sometimes you just sit there and you're like, I know who I am. I really need to say it. Y'all know.
Where we at?
Oh,
that's Lauren. That's how she is. She's so amazing, and she's just like, I'm good. They know me.
So we're actually live in the event right now.
Okay.
Just so you all know. So that the people are aware.
All right. Lauren is on board now. Sorry, everyone. I'm in charge of the live stream, and I was like, what's happening?
We're praying for it, y'all. We're really praying. We're really praying.
All right. Now that we're back on track.
See, this is why we're such a great team, because when stuff like this happens, we just like, look, we just gonna keep on going. And
right.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are doing watch parties tonight, everybody, just so you know, tonight, today, whenever you tune into this, because we do want to hear what your comments, we want to hear your opinions, because obviously there's four of us here on this panel, and there's, a very large community in this area. So if you you have seen something, if you heard something, we definitely want to hear from you, because again, the goal of all of this is, what can we do to move forward? How can we push the needle forward? We notice that there's a lot of things wrong in our society and in our industries particularly, and we don't want to go back to business as usual. And we want to do things the right way, on the right path. So with that being said, I'm Jarreau, by the way, in case people didn't know that. I am a singer-songwriter, artivist, one of the initiators of this Let Us Breathe initiative. I'm also a member of the Capital Groove Collective. And again, we're very happy for all four of us to be leading this and bringing change to our community and to the world.
Yeah, completely agree. And one of the things that Rebecca said, she mentioned the concert, and I want to stress that, make sure you guys, because, as you guys know, music is a galvanizing force, especially during these times. And so Jarreau has a lot of content. Look up Jarreau Williams, especially on YouTube. My son, by the way, is a huge fan. Every single day he starts singing your songs, and he makes me put him on TV, or he's mad and starts crying, and he plays drums along with him. So go to YouTube, check out Jarreau. He's got a lot of content up there. He's got some relevant music for today's time, some live stuff going on. Check out Lucy Black's page as well, and check out the concert that we just recently posted, the Let Us Breathe concert. It's amazing music from the camp and from our team, and we just want to make sure that you guys check that out. Also, like Jarreau said, make sure you get in the comments. We want this conversation to touch you guys, to reach you guys, to answer a lot of your questions if we can, or to get resources brought in so that, like Jarreau said, we can move things forward. So today we'll be discussing similar topics about racism and inequalities and injustices, but specifically within the entertainment world. And these are things that we deal with on a daily and a weekly basis, because this is our world. And so I wanted to start out broaching that subject about the entertainment world and see how you guys felt about whether or not the entertainment industry or the industries around us that are in entertainment that we're directly connected with or have heard about are doing enough to address Black Lives Matter, or to address racism, or to let people know that they stand on the side of right versus just the business side, just the side of coin. And so I know, Jarreau, you as an artist get to deal with this, and you as a friend of many artists get to deal with a lot of people and hear a lot of things. And so without naming names, do you feel like the industries, other than Lucy Black, the companies are doing enough with this topic, with this subject?
Yeah, so to answer the question plainly, no. I really don't feel like any of us are really doing enough, because again, we've been asking this question for weeks now. When is it really considered enough?
Right.
But I know that there are some people out there that are doing more than others. Because I have seen some agencies, again, I'm not here to name names. I'm not here to insinuate anything. All I want to say is that, I've been watching, I've been reviewing the landscape, and I'm seeing that there are a number of agencies that have not fully dealt with this, that are trying to kind of ride whatever wave this is of coronavirus, and then obviously being in a pandemic, and then obviously things are kind of stacking themselves on top of the other. And I think the disappointing thing is that what a lot of people in the entertainment industry sometimes fail to realize or fail to grasp is that the majority of their contractors are African American. And because of that, there are a lot of people in this industry that are affected by what's happening in the world right now. Whether it be in their own situations, or if it be something that they see, on the news or wherever. And the main thing that they're looking for is, where is that solidarity coming from? Where are the people who they've worked with who don't look like them, that are saying, hey, I'm seeing what's going on right now, and it's like, this is madness, but just know we're here for you. If you need anything, if we need to talk about this, that's what really shows how dedicated you are to your not just your clientele, but also to your contractors. And then that's what makes people stick around. And if any business wants to be successful, the big thing they got to do is they got to care about their people. And I know we've been talking about this a lot over this forum. Is I think where some people are a little tied up, or they're struggling right now, is saying that very simple 3-word phrase of Black Lives Matter. Because when they say that, a lot of times people are tying it to the organization or to the overall quote unquote movement. And there are a lot of things that are tied to that some people don't agree with, and don't agree with very strongly. But again, that should not change the phrase, like what that phrase means, that Black Lives Matter, not the movement, not the organization, the phrase. That's really what it comes down to. So to say that, agencies are doing enough, no, because some of them have not even addressed it. Some of them have not talked to their people at all. And, and some of them are just kind of approaching it business as usual. But I have seen some too that are kind of coming to the forefront and engaging their members, engaging their contractors, to see what changes need to be made, and see if, and the biggest thing, what mistakes have been made along the way, and how those mistakes can be changed. So I just got a comment from somebody on here saying they're not. So it's like, I can say it, but other people can, speak up on it too. So yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. And I agree, especially with Black Lives Matter. I think what is, from me speaking to a lot of people personally, I think one of the big misconceptions is people are adding to that phrase on both sides. So when we say it, a lot of times people feel we're saying only Black Lives Matter. And so they're refuting Black Lives Matter because they feel excluded, or they feel as if there's some supremacy involved or something of that nature, when in fact, what we're saying is Black Lives Matter also. And that's the big misconception, because when you've been overlooked for so long, when you've been oppressed, which people somehow still believe that that's not a thing, but when you've been done injustices and deeply wronged for so long, what you're trying to do is empower a group of people and let other people know we also matter. And people are taking offense and thinking that we're excluding ourselves and saying, hey, we're better than y'all. We matter. Nobody else matters. That's not. What's that, Lauren?
Sorry, I was going to say, I think a good example, there's all kinds of things that float around there, but one that I thought was kind of helpful is you're at a breast cancer gala. No one's running into that gala and saying, all cancers matter, all the cancers, when you're there specifically for breast cancer, because it's important to them. It's just, yes.
And that's kind of touching on another issue that I had, and I won't go too deep into it, but essentially a lot of people are like, well, Black Lives Matter, what about black on black crimes and this and that? And I don't want to go too deep there. But they're right. That stuff does matter, but it's not as if handling one issue is negating another issue. And that's the problem, is if you talk about racism and racial oppression and Black Lives Matter and injustices from other races upon Black people, all of a sudden it's as if you're negating other problems. All of a sudden it's as if you're condoning black on black crime, which is not the case. It's not the case. There's a narrow focus right now for a reason, because that focus is exploding onto the mainstream media, and there's a focus on stopping it. And so I think people need to be aware that they're adding so much to these intents and to these phrases and to these talks. Like, there's somebody watching right now being extremely cynical, like, well, they're saying this, but actually this, instead of listening to what we're saying. We're just trying to empower everybody and let you guys know that Black people matter as well. So I just wanted to add that to the phrase, because so many people are scared to say it, including businesses, which brings me to my point, Rebecca. Businesses are scared to step out because they feel they're going to lose money. Or I should say, one of the reasons a lot of these companies are afraid to step out, especially the entertainment industry, is because they are afraid that when they say something, clients are going to run the other way, which may in fact be true. But where's the line drawn? And why is it important to I don't want to say put money aside, because you're in business for a reason, but why is it more important to take a stand on these injustices than it is to make a dollar, in your opinion? Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, so I think it's actually been brought up in this forum before, and I think it's really important for people to remember the bottom line of a business is very important. But most businesses, and I've been thinking about this a lot, most businesses are comprised of employees and teams, right? That you work with every day and you see every day. And if something like this was happening to a business that had the percentages of people of color in their teams, I think the responses would be different. We're looking at this because it's contractors, right? These are people that I think it's safe to say most of the bigger companies probably aren't face-to-face with their teams all the time, right? So there's this mix of separation from people, separation from what's happening. And I don't know if that is part of what we're seeing, part of that dilemma that people are having. I also think the other part of it is people don't know what to do. I think a lot of businesses, they have a way that they do things. A lot of businesses don't want to get involved in politics. I felt like that before. It's like, oh yeah, I don't want to post anything political. Well, this isn't political anymore. This is actually a human rights issue. Right. And so I think that's been a struggle for people. And I want to give grace to a lot of these companies, because I don't know where they are. I haven't had conversations with them. And I'm not going to make judgments on responses or not responses because everyone's dealing with it differently. I have no idea how many people they've reached out to individually. But I do think, back to your point, part of this is about appearances too. You don't want to seem too extreme. I don't want to care too much, you know. You don't want to seem like you're alienating another group of people, just like the conversation before about Black Lives Matter. By taking a stand for your team, people on the outside don't always know what that means. And so I think that might be part of what we're doing. I don't want to care too much, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the point was good. It had to be repeated.
Right? But adding to that, this is the thing. That is the moment, what you're talking about, Becca, that people are not sure what they should do, or they're still not sure now. I'm like,
come on, Jarreau.
To be honest, my patience is wearing thin with that reply, with that excuse. I'm sorry. It's an excuse at this point when you're saying you don't know what to do, because like aside from the many years of history that we have as evidence, when we're talking about specifically in 2020, we've had about a solid month and some change dealing with this now.
Yep.
So the fact that a whole month has gone by and you still, quote unquote, don't know what to say, that's when you engage your team.
Yeah.
That's when you bring your band leaders in.
Yeah, I was gonna
have a discussion. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lauren. I want to let you get in.
A month, you know, it's been over a month now. Like, there's a period of time I feel that has passed where you have to at least start the conversations, talk a little bit, ask questions, do your work. You know, yeah, people are afraid of talking, or what do I say? What's right? What's wrong? But at this point, I totally agree with you, Jarreau. It's you've had enough time if you've been paying attention, and you should be paying attention.
But you're also assuming they want to engage. And so that's what my point is you're making this assumption. And I think a lot of people are trying to hunker down. I hate to say it that way, but they want this to pass and not have any tensions, and they want it to be easier. And we're dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with our country exploding with human rights issues that should have been brought up a long time ago, and it's like the perfect storm. And I think a lot of people, when I say they don't know what to do, I'm not sure they want to get involved. And I'm trying not to knock that. I'm just trying to state a mindset that might be happening. I'm not agreeing with it. I just think that might be part of the equation. And so when you're a business-minded person and you're running a business, that right now our businesses are, I think all of us would agree, everything for 2020 is kind of disintegrated. So we're watching this business like slip through our fingers. A lot of people, it's like they don't have the capacity to deal with everything else, which is honestly, it's very sad, because if you are in entertainment, this is your business. I mean, your business is your people. So there's that argument. I'm not trying to give anyone an excuse. I just think I think it's important for us to just be aware that not everyone thinks like us. They should.
Right, and we're willing. And the thing is, like, again, I'm different. Like, I try my best to see the good in people. I try my best to extend grace and mercy to a lot of people, because again, you don't know what a lot of backgrounds and intentions really are. But I will say this: there are a lot of people in the African-American community specifically that are looking at some of these business owners, people that they work with, managers, bosses, whoever, and they're really looking at what it is that they're doing and how they're responding to a lot of these things. And either the negative or lack of response is very telling.
It is.
And so while you may want it to pass, there's people who can't let it pass because it's their life. It's their everyday life. Like what we've been doing the whole, fingers down game. We've been doing, all these different type of icebreakers so that people could physically see the effects of what we're seeing now have always happened. So if that is not causing you to check yourself, but then also check in with your people, the people who are helping you to bring in the business, that's when there's a divide. And that's when a discussion needs to be had, especially if you really care about the people in the room. You may not see them every day, but even if you got all your band leaders together and said, hey, have you guys talked to your musicians? What are they saying? What are they feeling? You can't talk to hundreds of people at the same time. It's hard. I get it. But to say at this point in time, you don't know what to say, when there's been all these resources and there's been people that have extended themselves to be that bridge, it's an excuse at this point. Okay. And you're kind of losing bonus points by the day that you don't act. You know what I mean?
And I think that this is also showing us how business is changing. I mean, I've been feeling it for years, not just the wedding industry or the events industry, but I do really think that a lot of business models are shifting from this sterile, non-emotional environment to actually understanding this has to be all comprehensive. And in the wedding events industry specifically, I mean, we deal with weddings. It's like all emotional, right? So we need to be emotional about this. Like we need to care about this. And to your point, like this is your team. This is for lack of a better picture for people who don't really get this. This is your product. Your product is like a human stage, right? We're putting on productions. It's like theater. So it's very hard for anyone to say this is cut and dry because it's not,
And we know the term. People don't leave bad. They don't leave good businesses. Like they leave bad bosses. Yeah. Like I'm paraphrasing that term, but again, that's the key though, because the setup can be great, but if your management doesn't care about you, or your management is kind of approaching things without you in mind, not saying they're going to accept every single one of your opinions, but if they're not even approaching business with you, the person in mind, and that you can tell that they don't have to say it. It's by the way they act. It's what they continue to do, even in the face of adversity. Because I can tell you right now, I'm in a situation like that where I had to seek it out because I was legit concerned at the silence. And I was like, okay, I didn't get the answer that I was hoping for, but now I know. Yeah. And I'm like, I just don't want to keep not knowing how people are reacting to this, even from a business standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. Because again, if we cared about each other, if we really cared about each other, we'd be checking in on each other. And I'm not seeing a lot of businesses do that. Yeah. Now, with this group, it's different because we've all worked together. We all care about each other. We respect each other. And we're a somewhat small team. So there's a little bit more flexibility to do that. But I'm saying, kind of to wrap it up, because I know we wanted to talk about some other instances where we've noticed, very uncomfortable, racial, prejudicial situations in our industry. We wanted to talk about that. The main thing I wanted to take away is this. You don't have to say Black Lives Matter to communicate that you feel Black Lives Matter. You can use it in your situations. You can use it in your imagery. You can use it in your PSAs, all things that you all have done. And I'm not saying that to, just like be like, they're the only team doing this. But you all have said Black Lives Matter at some point in time, but there's other ways that you're showing that by putting on concerts featuring your entire diverse team and including your entire diverse team in the conversations, not just the Black people. You're including everyone because you want everybody to be exposed to that. And by doing that, you are proving that Black lives matter to you. You don't have to be saying it and painting it on streets and putting it on walls and all that other stuff. You're showing it in your actions. You're showing it in how you display your imagery. So I'm just saying, you don't have to say Black lives matter, but there's other ways to show that solidarity. And I really hope that businesses take note of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what my point was gonna be, is that I think for a lot of businesses that are scared, getting involved looks like this to them, where it doesn't have to be this. They don't have to do forums and stuff like that. Getting involved can be, like you said, Jarreau, just pulling in their people. Real quick, I wanted to shout out Jocelyn Indigo. She's chiming in on a few things. You got any questions? You got any questions or comments? Get those in. Vic, I got you. I hear you. Give me a second, Vic. I want to bring this in, but not quite yet. Jerry, I see you. Carm agrees with Rebecca, and she said, to me, saying I don't know means trying to protect comfort, which I definitely agree with. Vic is a little bit
privilege, by the way.
Which is a privilege.
Yeah. Yep. And Vic is a little bit heavy-handed with with his comments. So I want to kind of wait, but I will say this part. He said demanding or expecting a business to speak on a distorted issue is unfair. And so the reason I wanted to say that is because, Vic, I want you to clarify that, just expound upon that a little bit more, in a way where I can kind of bring it up in a question form to the team or a comment form to the team. But he said,
which is a valid point too. I also want to make that known. So I appreciate Vic for saying that, because again, we want to know a little bit more in terms of what you mean by that, because again, you don't have to paint it on the walls. You don't have to make it this big showcase, but there is a way to do it. There's a way to highlight your people. You know what I mean?
And I think there's a distinction too. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't think we're saying that you need to speak on the issue per se versus addressing the issue. You need to
you could even address it internally, you know,
right.
Send something out to the members of your team. It doesn't necessarily have to be public, but just so that your team knows how you feel.
Right. He said America does not have a race issue. It has a socio-cultural issue. It doesn't have a race issue. It has a socio-cultural issue. Vic, I know you have like 17 degrees. If you can kind of break that down to what you mean.
To what he's saying, yes, there's an issue with socioeconomic status, which is associated with culture, but it's also associated with race. That's the thing. I know I get where he's going, but you also you can't talk about socio-cultural without talking about race. You just can't. You can't. Like it's there, because there are cultures, there are customs, but what we're talking about in this country, a lot of that is I mean, go back to 1619. How did we get here? Like, I mean, that's the first thing. I don't want to keep making it about that particular issue. We're not trying to make this white versus black. That's not what we're here to do. But at the same time, I would love to talk to Vic about this too. Like, so if he's interested in engaging us, to talk about that, I'm all for that, because this is also the thing. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. Right. And there's a lot of people out here right now that are afraid to admit that. That's the first step, admitting that there's a problem. So I'm not afraid to be educated on something or have a productive conversation about something. So, but I guess just again, this is from my perspective. When you talk about socioeconomic status and you talk about sociocultural, when you incorporate the culture side of it, you're going down that slippery slope of talking about race. So I would love to hear what he says about it. But Becca, did you have something to say to that? Or
I wanted to add to what you were saying. I think that because this is an argument I've heard before, and I think what happens is it actually diverts some of the issues. Yes, socioeconomic disparities and differences are an issue. To what Jarreau said, they are all intertwined with race. You can't talk about it without talking about race. And at this point, having that argument actually it derails kind of the bigger purpose of what we're trying to do. And it's like what Aijne was talking about with bringing on black crime. It's a separate issue, and there's a place for that conversation too. But in this conversation, it doesn't really. I mean, not that socioeconomic status or cultures don't apply, but that's not really what we're addressing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Vic, we'll kind of take that offline because it's steering in a direction we're not focusing on for this combo. But very good points. I will say this real quick. I disagree. I'm nowhere near as educated as Vic is. I mean, he's a student of everything, but I disagree because, in my opinion, he's saying that there's a socio-cultural issue and not a race issue, meaning that race can't also be an issue and socio-cultural be an issue. I think he's saying there's one and not the other, where I disagree. I believe there are crimes and hatred and deep-rooted issues that are solely associated to race, to skin color, and that have nothing to do with any type of cultural background or economic background or anything like that. It's solely people are being lynched because they're black, or people are being discriminated against because they're Indian or whatever, just solely because of that. So I do believe that there's an issue. But Vic, again, maybe you can educate me a little bit more offline on what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear that too. So I appreciate Vic for chiming in seriously.
Yeah,
these are the talks we need to have. That's, again, we've said that every single week. If we don't have talks like this, how are we actually going to move forward? That's really what it comes down to.
For sure. And Carm, I see you. Race is definitely an issue. I agree. Once again, we'll have that combo a little bit further. I'll loop Jarreau in too as well, Vic. Please keep the comments coming and the questions. If you guys have any comments or questions, go to the live feed and comment, or any of our watch parties. If you want to personally message us or text us, whatever, doesn't matter. You can remain anonymous, whatever the case is, whatever you want to do. But I do want to ask you guys in the entertainment world, the different racial issues or the different injustices that you guys have seen firsthand and that you've heard from others that have experienced different things throughout their times with different agencies, with different entertainment companies and stuff like that. So we can identify what are some of these issues we can overcome in the entertainment industry as a group and as a collective. And some people might not even be aware. Some people, here's a big issue I see that we can discuss at a later date. But a big issue I see is there are people who aren't racist that are ignorant because they're not racist, because they're not, there's nothing affecting them personally from racism, and they're also not racist, so they're overlooking a lot of the racial issues because they're ignorant to it. And I think that is another huge issue that I've actually broached with a few people on a personal level, and I've tried to kind of educate them on some things that they're overlooking because they're not, it's not affecting them personally.
Or they haven't had it, like you said, they haven't had any history with it. Even if they're not personally affected, they haven't met somebody who is,
right,
or talked to somebody who is, yeah.
But with that, there's a lot of people in our industry that aren't aware and need to be made aware. So if you guys could speak to some of the things that you've seen. I know, Lauren, you had a couple things that you've seen personally that weren't right, whether they're whether they're racial or whether they're just sexist or something of that nature.
Are we talking about Florida?
Uh-oh.
I mean, they're I guess
sunshine in the Sunshine State.
I guess I would say there are probably some things. But by the way, what happens in Florida? Never mind. So
Aijne.
I think there are some things that my wife's sitting over there. By the way, there's some things that that are generally happening with these different companies in the entertainment world that are consistent across the board that we want to identify. And I could start elsewhere. I thought you had a specific one, Lauren, but maybe not.
Sorry. I'm like, where's if Rebecca knows which one, maybe it'll drop.
I don't.
Rebecca, if you want to go on this, because I got a few. So just,
Well, I think
we have heard a lot of stories, even just through this process, from our own teammates. Things that either I wasn't aware of or I wasn't paying attention to. Again, it's that paying attention. You have to take that one step further and really, really pay attention and see what's going on. And just some of the things like going up to some of our girls and some like nasty old guy being like, ooh, dance for me, pretty girl, or whatever. And it's just disgusting. And using other words that I'm not going to use, just totally inappropriate. And why is that okay? Just things like that I'm going to be paying more attention to, when people are, because our singers and our musicians, they interact with guests. It's what they do. They're performers. They are in the service industry. But, really paying attention to if someone is bothering them, if I'm seeing someone kind of talking to them and I need to pay attention to their faces and see how they're reacting.
Yeah.
Just those things, they're not tiny, but things that we need to be more aware of and really, go that step further to help protect our people.
Those microaggressions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, actually, that's one of the things I was going to mention, and it's a hard thing for us to even talk about inside of our industry, because this is something that, like, we'll get a call from a planner, and these are people we know and love, and they're literally relaying a message, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this, but I'm just telling you what the client said. And they'll be like, oh, I don't care what kind of music it is, I just want Black singers. And I'm like, are you saying you want R&B music? Are you trying to define the music by the race? And I have to help people understand. I'm like, look, if you have styles of music, I can help you. I don't feel like, you're not saying it the right way. And they don't know what to do because they don't know how to talk to their clients now about what I'm saying. So it's like, a lot of times we'll try and get on the phone, and of course that's not said on the phone to me with the client, but we try very hard to be like, oh, we have a singer who can sing pop, rock, country, R&B, and gospel. What styles do you like? And so it's finding these, and microaggressions are the best word for it, because there's this ignorance in what's being said that is that aggression, right? And it's perpetuating stereotypes. It's perpetuating people creating these racial divides. Trying to remember, there was a really good one.
Like I want rock or I want country, and they sing Black, and they think that can't possibly be, that they could sing those types of music, when if you close your eyes and listen to what's being played from your phone or your laptop or whatever, you might not know, unless they're being very stylistic. They're adding like that special sauce, which white people do. But it's like, if you just close your eyes, if you just listen, what are you really asking for?
I mean, we've had someone tell us our band was too funky. And I don't think that that's what was meant, but that's how we took it. We took it as they wanted a white band. And at the end of the day, that's not what was meant. And we figured that out. But like, we're so used to hearing those phrases that it's like, okay, guys, like, do you want a fun band that's going to make you dance? We got one. Like, do you love Michael Jackson? You should hire Jarreau.
Because I know every song in the catalog. It's like, somebody just, my boy Haley, shout out to Haley, who's a musician, by the way, excellent drummer, excellent producer.
Haley,
just said about Lauren's thing about the special sauce, all them runs.
yeah.
Look,
But then you've got my girl Christina. She does them all day.
People love some runs when it's done
Your
right.
girl. Yeah.
But yeah, so that you bring up a great point about when people ask for a type of sound, or as I kind of refer to it now as the Bobby Caldwell complex, because we know a lot of people did not know Bobby Caldwell was white, but because of the way he sings "What You Won't Do for Love," which is one of my favorite songs,
we know.
you don't place color with that at that point, because you already assume you think you know who it is. But that's also another reason why, for me as a musician, I always ask my clients, doesn't matter what color they are, I always ask them, what type of music do you like? Because we never want to assume that one group of people only likes rock and country, or this group, because we're playing for this type of wedding, that, they're going to want pop and they're going to want R&B. You can never make that assumption about somebody, because it's almost like the same thing for us as Black people when somebody's like, wait, you don't know this song? Like, I'm blacker than you. And then you're like, yeah, okay. All right, cool. We'll have this talk for another day. Huh?
Someone said that to you?
Yeah. Yeah, people said that to me.
I'm like, is this a thing that happened? It's horrible.
That's a thing. It's a real thing, unfortunately. And that happened to me a lot in college, believe it or not.
Man,
and I think that's because college is a culture shock for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And people believe that because you're this, they've already put you in this box of who they think you should be, and who they, the things that they think you're interested in. So I've seen that happen a lot of times in our industry, kind of like what you're talking about, Becca, when people say, well, I want Black singers, or I like even suggesting like
start asking them why. What for what?
Like what? I mean, I thought you wanted somebody who was talented.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's known more that Black singers have soul, but I know plenty of other singers of other races and nationalities that have just the same amount of soul. It enters that thing like, don't pick me to fulfill a quota, like pick me because I'm the best person for the job.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm like, who can get the job done? Okay, this is the type of music you want. Who do I know that can deliver that? And when we show up and that band looks diverse, yeah, you may think like, oh, okay. But then we play, and it's like, man, this band is killing. Like, okay. So, we've seen many instances like that. I know just for me personally as a singer, appearance, we get it all the time. My hair. Like, especially for older crowds. Because obviously, again, people come from a different time. They come from a different place where certain customs and traditions that's what they're used to. So I had like a guest came up to me during a gig and said like, oh, you should put the hat that the bass player has on, you should put on his hat. Like, and I was just kind of like, oh, I'm like, okay, well, that's his style, but all right. And again, just kind of shrugged it off, but I knew what he meant, because he had an issue with my hair, because it wasn't like it
wasn't a crew cut.
Right, exactly. But again, I never like to make assumptions. And I always try to be courteous with every guest and every client, no matter what happens, because this is something else we said we wanted to address is, what do you do?
Yeah.
When something like that happens, even if it gets very tense, because this is another reason why I really want agencies and businesses to really engage their people. It doesn't have to be outward, like Lauren said. You can do it internally, because we're in a new climate now. A lot of people have to take that into effect. A lot of people are not considering that. we're in a very new climate right now. And so when these gigs start happening and people start seeing who shows up at these gigs or things like that, sometimes people just don't have a filter, especially when alcohol is involved. And at that point, when do we as musicians learn to not engage that? But then at what point, when somebody crosses a line, that it almost doesn't even make you feel safe or feel comfortable in that environment, do you, like, what actions do you take? Because we're talking about bottom line, like Becca hinted earlier. That bottom line has a chance to get affected because either your person, like your contractor, does no longer feels comfortable because of this situation that happened, or you have clients that feel a certain way, and some may be enabled to say what they feel on site when we're really just there to show up and play and make sure that the event is entertaining. So I guess my question then I want to pose to Becca and Lauren is, how would you as an entertainment entity or an agency, how would you all deal with that? Like, how do you all confront that if you have a guest or a client who says something or does something that is that has racist or prejudicial intentions toward your band? Like, how would you instruct your band to handle that?
Lauren, do you want to go first?
I think honestly now more so, I personally will be more outspoken about it. Whereas we said we are in a service industry where it's easy to just be like, and you just kind of shrug things off. But it's not appropriate, and people shouldn't have to shrug things off. And we are almost always on site for all of our events, to be there kind of as the gatekeeper, as the protector of our musicians, if you will. So really, I think for us, it's going to be more, we really want people to tell us when things happen. And if we see it, we will be able to act on it immediately. But, you know, it can be as easy as either going to the planner to have them handle it, or we handle it directly. But just being more aware and really paying attention and making sure that everyone knows that this is a safe space and they can come and tell us, and that, no, it's not okay if someone comes up and says, "Ooh, dance for me, girl." Like, it's totally inappropriate. And, you know, the hair comments, the hat comments, none of that. None of that.
Where's the line though? So I'm gonna let you respond, Rebecca, but where's the line of, okay, I'm pulling my guys out of here, or I need to stay and satisfy this client so that our name doesn't look bad, and so that, you know, we don't lose out on money. Like because that's the line that so many businesses are towing, is I'm gonna look this way about this racial slur because I have $1 to make, and because I don't want them to tell somebody else not to book us. Like, where is that line for you guys, or where should it be for other people?
I've been thinking about this a lot, because Lauren and I are very white people. Like, we're not just white, we're very white people. We don't have.
Say what now?
That. Sorry, Jarreau, it's true. We don't have the insight to draw that line. We don't. I think it would have to be, and I hope that our whole team would know that they would be the ones drawing the line. Like, if something ever happened on a gig, I mean, Jocelyn's on here and Nissa's on here. If they came up to me and said, "We are totally uncomfortable, we do not feel safe, I am not going back out there," I would know something massively wrong happened. I trust my team. And then we would have to let them help us figure out that line. Now, I think, Anissa, hi, Anissa.
Hey, girl.
I think that there would obviously have to be a conversation, because I've never walked out on a gig. So that would be a massive decision for us as a company to make. We would have to absolutely pull in a planner and figure out what happened. But at the end of the day, if your team says they're not safe at a gig, that's our responsibility to keep them safe. So one conversation that actually Lauren and I have been having this conversation for a while is that, you know, there are a lot of planners we work with who have harassment clauses. And it's something we've never had. And we were like, oh, we really should have that. We've had some comments from people. Like, I have actually had a guest get handsy. And I'm like, dude, I'm working right now. Like, you feel like you have no recourse, you know, because you have to like placate the crowd. So we've been working on a harassment clause that also incorporates our team, that incorporates, you know, how can we put in language that addresses this, so that if something happened, the client already is aware that this is in our contract, the planner's already aware that this is in our contract. But more than that, if agents are working this way to protect their team, the team needs to know what's in the contract. They need to know they have these legal footings to hold on to, because it's not just oh, you took that the wrong way, or oh, he didn't mean it like that, because you don't know how the person's taking it. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And the more I've been reading, the more I've been trying to educate myself and thinking about this, it's like, for us to draw those lines in the moment, we can't draw those lines. You know what I mean? So we have to rely on our team and the relationship with our team to work together, because our team doesn't want to walk out on a gig. Like, Jarreau, have you ever wanted to walk out on a gig, like knowing the implications that would happen? No.
Never wanted to do that. I've always wanted to try to diffuse any possible situation that arose, even if it was amongst people on my own team. I've had that happen on a gig where team members were angry about things within the group.
Wow.
And, you know, at some point we had to be like, okay, this has nothing to do with the client. So let's do this. We need to do our jobs. We need to stay professional. And then, hey, when we're done, let's talk about it after, whether it be on a phone call or something else. Because at the end of the day, again, caring about your people, we're family. Yeah. When people hear that, they automatically know, all right, we're going to take care of this. Families fight, families argue, but families at the end of the day want what's best for each other. So
they've got your back.
Now, right. Now you're talking about lines being crossed. For me, and see, you all are in a very particular situation, because for you as a entertainment entity, you all are at gigs. And I know there are other there are other agencies who have a quote unquote producer at a gig, but there are also bands that are left alone. And the only person that's the leader in that band is the band leader themselves.
Right.
So there has to be some sort of communication there when a band is there by themselves. Like, for me personally, if somebody were to call me the N-word or drop some sort of racial epithet or some type of expletive, because for me, you don't have to talk to me like that to get your point across. There's a way for us to do that. There's a professional way to voice your displeasure with something, and then we can find a solution for that to happen. Now, it's never gotten to that point for me, but I know for me in my personal line, especially me being an African-American, and most of the people that I play with being African-Americans, if anybody, I don't care who you are, is dropping that N-bomb, that's a time where I'm be like, yo, wrap the cords up, we're out of here. But with that being said, because I'm a diffuser, that's just my personality type. My first inclination is I don't want the band getting involved, because I'm the band leader. This is my setup. And my job is to keep everybody else protected. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have everybody stop playing, and I'm going to have you go off and take a minute. And then I'm going to get the planner, I'm going to get the client together and be like, look, this just happened. This is not acceptable. And if I'm because it's you, because this is me building a relationship with these people over time, because I care about your business and I care about making your day special. So because it's you, I'm going to let y'all figure out how we're going to fix this. But if we can't fix this, I'm sorry, we're done. because we're not going to take that type of abuse. It's supposed to be a happy time. So I'm saying that to encourage band leaders who don't have producers on site, or band leaders who have, managers, that it's important that they communicate with their management in terms of how they should approach situations like that. And the most important thing that you got to say is, we no longer felt safe at this event. Because when you just say, oh, we just decided to stop playing, that it opens up a whole different can of worms. So I know my boy Haley is on here because he's a band leader himself. And he prime example, he said, I've been called a talented blackie while playing a show. I'm not going to say where, it's in the comments, but anyway, I'm sorry, but like, it's like, how do you, at some point you're just kind of like, okay, I'm going to shrug this off for right now. That's me, because again, this is about me and my brand. And then for me personally, because for people who don't know, I do have my own band, and everything runs through me. And so I tell all of my band members, if somebody has a question, if somebody has a concern, don't engage, bring them to me. Because that keeps you out of the equation. It only makes it about me and them, because I have the relationship with them. Yep. And the last thing I want to do is somebody else get caught in the crossfire because somebody said something to them. Yep. I got my team. So for any band leader that's out there that may hear this or watch this, make sure you're taking care of your team first. Then you consult your client, your planner, whoever, and you figure out a solution. And if a solution can't be made, I'm sorry, that's when you contact whoever and you say, I'm nixing this agreement because of X, Y, and Z, and you have it in writing.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to have these kind of clauses and conversations. I think that especially people who don't have someone on site, and maybe a band that has an agency, this is really an opportune time for these band leaders to go to your agency and say, how are you protecting me? Because more and more, we're going to see the extremes coming out, I'm worried about, especially in a lot of the events we do. And I think we're going to see more things that maybe we don't want to see. And I
think that there's going to be a lot more people saying things in passing.
Yeah.
Because, and it's going to be a point where people get to feel as if, because they see who's on stage, they're going to try to engage you in a conversation. And you just kind of have to, if somebody tries to say something about politics, you kind of just have to say, hey, with all due respect, we're not here to talk about that tonight. We're here to, focus on this event. And yes, the world's crazy right now. Yeah, laugh it off. But you're just like, I'm sorry, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to have fun. We're here to promote joy and togetherness, and we're here to put on good music. That's it.
Quick shout out to Kiana, I see you, Anissa, Chris Mackey, a few others. Get your comments in. We're running out of time here. If you have a question or comment that you want us to speak on real quick, let us know. Watch parties or the Lucy Black Entertainment page. Now, all right, let me ask you this. Is it our responsibility then, if we've been wronged in such a way with our team or our band, is it our responsibility at that point then to say something? And by say something, I mean, I don't want to say spread word about this client or whoever it is, but what I mean is to put people on notice that this can't be done. Do you tell your associates? Do you out whoever this client is? And is it our responsibility to kind of take that type of stand to say, this isn't okay and you're going to be ostracized because of it? Do you know what I mean? Or is it our responsibility to pack our bags and stay silent about it? Does that perpetuate the issue?
So I have a couple thoughts on that, and it's actually been part of the conversation in the events world. I've heard a few planners speak on basically comments they've gotten from other partners, like or facing the racism when they're coming to a venue that, you know, the white partners are coming in with no problems, and then they're being grilled and questioned why they're there. Things like that. Things that those microaggressions that everyone. What? What'd you say? Yeah. Well, yeah. And so those are the kind of moments. Those are the things that, like, you know, the conversation's been, do you call people out? And I think it's time. I think it's time to, maybe not right then, because we got a job to do, got a wedding to run. We probably don't have time to get into it. But after the fact, you can call that venue and say, look, you know, I notice every time my team shows up, my production team has a hard time getting in because they're being questioned, and I'm worried that it's race related. Can we talk about it? Or, you know, anything like that. Now with clients, it's a bit different. I think at that point, I would probably, if it was something that could be resolved in the moment, finish the gig and just cut ties. I'd probably go that direction, because what's the point in the middle of their wedding? You know, like, that's where my mind would go. But I guess it depends on what happened. If it was a planner, especially a planner I was friends with, I've not had this happen, thank goodness. I think we would be responsible to have that conversation and call them out and say, look, I don't think you meant this, but do you know what you said? Do you know how this is taken? Do you know?
Came across.
Right. And I think that's something a lot of people have not been doing, because like you said, Aijne, you don't want to cause rifts. You don't want to create dissension, but I mean, time is now, right? And I mean, otherwise no change happens. People just keep on going, and they might not know that what they said was offensive, what they said was ignorant or prejudice. They might not know. So maybe we can see it as education.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like it's a responsibility. Go ahead, Jarreau.
No, I was just saying that is the biggest thing. You hit on it. It's education, because we're seeing this cancel culture be so charged right now. You know, people find one thing that you say or one thing that you did, and it's like they're putting it out there for everybody to see. And hey, look, let's be real. Some of that stuff is warranted, because if there's a repeated history of it, and there's like physical evidence that has been happening. I mean, I've seen it happen in the theater community, not from a racial issue, but more of sex abuse. I've seen that happen. That's another story for another day. But I've seen this stuff happen, and there's been repeated accounts of it. But the thing that, like you said, if I had a personal relationship with someone like a planner, or, you know, some type of corporate client, and something like that happened, that's when I would have a private conversation with them first, rather than just posting to the airwaves, don't ever work with this person. This happened to me at a gig. Now, I could use that gig as an example and a teachable moment without calling that person out. But if I have that, you know, if I have that conversation with them, and like you said, they just didn't know, or they just weren't aware, I feel like that's more productive than just outing somebody flat out. Like, I mean, I'm seeing comments here from people that are just like, you know, go ahead and out them because you don't want another band to get that same treatment. Yes, that is very true. But also by having that discussion with them, because you know them, that will also like help them think about how they engage future bands, rather than just throwing them out to the wolves. And again, that's my way of doing it. How I choose to do it and how you choose to do it are totally different things. But I think the thing we really got to focus on is, if you have a personal relationship with that person and you notice they did something wrong, it's important to have that private conversation first before you decide, well, I'm going to let everybody know what you did. Yeah. And this bridge is completely burned, cut off, putting, you know, crocodiles in the river and never cross it again. There's that. But
if you do have that relationship, then there's,
you value it, right?
You know their heart, and you know that hopefully that's not what they meant, and it wasn't intended that way. And for them to now know that is, like we said, that teaching moment. It's important to help that along, especially with those that we know and trust.
Right,
Well,
because
not only
I mean, the
that,
biggest thing. Oh, my bad.
What?
I was just saying, like the biggest thing I'm done is that my faith has shown me that people do have the capacity to change, but we have to be able to give them that same grace and mercy. Like, and again, this is my Jarreau the diffuser, optimistic. It doesn't have to be sunshine and rainbows every day, but it doesn't have to be gloom and doom every day. Also, that is my mindset. That's how I approach things. So I try to see the good in people. I try to extend that grace and that mercy. And people do have the capacity to change. They do have it, but whether they choose to do it is up to them. So I'm just saying that to say, sometimes we do have to think before we just out and cancel somebody, especially if it's a relationship that we value.
And I think that cutting people off is a step to take. I mean, I can think of instances where I would not want to work with a company, and I'm not sure I would put them on like social media of why I wouldn't want to work with a company. It would have to be pretty egregious. Again, even then, I'm not sure I would actually go public with it, because that's not productive also. You know what I mean? That's, to me, it's, okay, this is why I'm not, so I'm not going to give you business. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like you said, if it's egregious, and I get where my friends are coming from that are commenting on it, if you don't want anybody else to be subject to that, you know, it's like at some point, if it's very egregious, then it's like, look, y'all, I'm just putting people on notice. If you're working with this particular organization, and sometimes people will come to me privately and ask about that, you know, but in most cases, I just, you know, I just try to keep it moving and then use the experience, right, without calling people out, like use the experience itself as a teachable moment.
Yeah. Couple more people. Lanice, what's up? Jocelyn, we do see you. So check this out. We're gonna wrap up here. I'm gonna let you guys know a couple things that are coming. But Jocelyn, I want to make sure you know we are going to get into that question. Give me the date, guys. What's the date next week?
I
think it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Oh.
3 weeks?
Maybe.
All right. Well, while Rebecca's pulling it up, we're going to get into this. We're going to have a forum that is just ladies, and we will touch on that subject a little bit more. But just to let you guys know, Jocelyn, who I call Indigo, was talking about women's attire and how the comments about their bodies, their body types, their body shapes, and the clothes that they wear are a big thing. We'll read it in detail a little bit more later, but that's one thing I really wanted to get into. There's all types of things with hair color. I know people that only allow certain types of people in certain positions in their bands and stuff like that for certain reasons, which I understand it sells. So I get that side of it, but is it wrong? You know what I mean? Is that the right way to do things? Anyway, we can get into that more and more. I want you guys to be aware of what's going on. Again, Jarreau Williams Experience. Look him up. Thank you, Jarreau. Rebecca, Lauren from Lucy Black Entertainment. I am Aijne Williams. Look up Upper Octave Productions if you ever need corporate sound or band sound or any type of live sound. We will be coming back to you guys soon. Check out the concerts. Look up Jarreau on YouTube. Also, Capitol Riverfront on Facebook has a full concert from him. Great concert, as well as Lucy Black Entertainment. We have a Let Us Breathe concert, so look that up on their page. A lot more concerts and content coming to you from us individually as well as a team, because that is what we do. And that is how we can help people heal. So look out for more announcements on the concerts coming. Lucy Black has a video that is releasing soon, a band video. It's amazing, clean looking video, awesome.
Oh,
I know we don't have a deadline yet. It's a quarantine baby.
They've been putting in work, so look for that dropping tomorrow. No, I'm just playing. But it is coming to you real soon, so that's hot. Thank you, Jocelyn. I do see you in your comments. Anissa, what's up? anybody else want to chime in real quick. But I just wanted to let you guys know those things that are happening, those things that have already happened. Look up each and every one of those things, support, reach out to people that you don't know, engage in conversation. Let's help move this forward, educate people, educate yourself. Just be open to love, learn, and to change, to evolve. And more importantly, just treat everybody as equals. Treat everybody how you would want to be treated. So I'm gonna throw it to Jarreau for his closing comments, and then we'll let Lucy Black close it out.
You pretty much hit it all on the head. And again, just as we navigate in this new time, I would also encourage a lot of musicians, especially those in our area, to really rely on each other. Don't turn on each other. I'm noticing a lot of that recently, where I get it because everybody's got differing opinions about things, but just know that our music scene, we are the reason that it keeps thriving. So it's important that we continue to rely on each other. We continue to lean on each other and ascend together so that DC can be the next great hub city where DC musicians don't have to go to New York. They don't have to go to Nashville. They don't have to go to Atlanta. They don't have to go to LA. They can stay right here in the DMV and we can all ascend together. So musicians out there, if you're listening, let's do better at how we engage each other and let's ascend together.
The only comment I would say is a team. Lauren and I have been wanting more feedback on how we as an agency can do better. And I think, having this conversation keep going, we would like to extend it at some point. So, email us, direct message us. We want to keep talking about this and we want to know how our industry can do better.
Well, on behalf of Let Us Breathe, thank you guys. And we will see you very, very soon. Look out for more.
Thanks.
Peace.